Welcome back to ASEAN Breakfast Call. Today in our dialogue session, we have Avzad.com. Terence is with us today. And then Ravindran, Raman Kutty, who is currently in the past, the ex-Secretary General of the Institute of Public Relations, Malaysia. And he's also currently working with the port as a strategic communication advisor. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm welcoming myself. This is very good.
Good morning, Vienna. Thank you very much.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, guys, let's start off our discussion today about MH370 with what has gone wrong with MH370, especially with regards to the PR strategies, if any, that we have employed so far.
Thank you, Vienna. Thank you, Terence. It's nice to be sharing the same platform with you. Terence
It's an honor.
Terence is not an ordinary Malaysian journalist. He's an outstanding journalist indeed.
A veteran.
Yeah. And I think the key thing that happened in this handling of the crisis is the lack of information and the conflicting statements that has come by to confuse the stakeholders. I think that's one critical error that we have done knowingly or unknowingly. Number two could be the preparedness. How prepared was Malaysia or the relevant authorities in the country?
Sorry, allow me to ask a question here.
Sure.
Has Malaysia ever been in such international media scrutiny ever before? Maybe Terence?
No, like I said last week, this is unprecedented. And the eyes of the world are on us. And if nobody knew of Malaysia 1 week ago, they sure as hell know about us now.
Yeah.
So hopefully after this incident, we will see Kuala Lumpur being mentioned in the weather forecast of international news channels.
Besides Singapore.
Besides Singapore. You always see Singapore, Bangkok, but nothing in between,
Right.
Yeah.
But allow me to get a little context. So never has Najib or Hishamuddin or other of our government officials been under such press conference with all this media with such pressing questions, and never.
Never. We've never had an incident that warrants this kind of attention on our country.
Yeah.
They must be having a ride of their lifetime right now.
Yeah. I don't envy them. I don't wish to be in their shoes. But as Ravi will probably tell us that they could have walked better in those shoes that they have. Yeah.
I think Terence is right. I would like to add, Malaysia has been always on the right pedestal. We had beautiful occasions like announcing the multimedia super corridor, announcing our Twin Towers, announcing the Visit Malaysia year. We had more pleasant moments than this one moment, which is very painful for all of us here. We had moments, but not in this context where we had pointed questions and our authorities were struggling to answer them. This is the first time, as Terence said, this is the one unprecedented event which is really taking all our time and effort to correct now. Yeah.
I think if I may add, whatever major incidents that we had experienced involved locals, Malaysians. The Lahad Datu incursion, the air crash in Tanjung Kukang 30 years ago, even the tsunami for that matter.
Yeah.
It largely involved locals, Malaysians. So, and hence there was no interest maybe from the foreign press about what was going on here, because it didn't really impact them or affect their nationals.
So we know it's about 14 countries involved in this case.
I heard 25 now.
Oh, 25.
After the appeal yesterday, that we publicly appealed for the international community to come in and help us with that.
No, 14 countries were involved in this crisis, meaning 14 countries were represented as passengers.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of the fact that we are on spotlight. The whole world is watching us. As one CNN broadcaster said, is a bizarre in the manner in which we handled it. I think purely because of this contradicting statements and lack of preparedness.
So maybe we can go on to what have gone wrong, and then after that, Terence maybe can provide some perspective of what's happening on the ground with that relates to.
Sure, but it's Ravi's show today.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Together.
I think number one, we were contradicting ourselves. The authorities were one. Like for example, first the DCA chief said that it's five passengers,
right,
and the baggages were offloaded. Subsequently, the chief of police came by to say no, and finally Malaysian Airlines themselves said that no, it's 4. So till today we are still doubtful of what's the exact number of the so-called people who didn't check in or their bags were taken offloaded. Number two, we did not put the right people to handle the issue, meaning we had people, of course, senior civil servants coming forward. It's very nice of them to come forward to spend their time talking. I think the fundamental thing that was missing in them was the training. You see, when you face international media, you have to be mindful of the fact the way or how incisive they will be in asking questions. I'm sure Terence will vouch for it, Once you're a journalist, and especially in an event like this, they will be asking angles that you never even dreamt of. So that was one key thing that we did not look into. And I sincerely hope the Malaysian government would spend more time, especially critical officials from the DCA, from the armed forces, from the air forces, or from the army, or navy for the matter, to go through this program intensively so that they will then know how to manage. I mean, crises don't come calling, it comes at moments or the wee hours when we are sleeping or when we are feasting or when we are partying. So we must always be ready to face a crisis. And of course, the technical competency of our infrastructure that we have, it's now being questioned over and over again whether was our radar system functioning. If it was not, what went wrong, or how can we rectify this? And the other thing about a few ministers' statements saying that they want to mobilize the fishermen to go and look for the ill-fated, I hope it is not, the missing plane for can you imagine about 1,000 fishermen were mobilized? Means they will be living aside their job. That means the tenggiri and the whatever kurau that we eat every day, or the ikan kembung that we, was a part of our staple diet, will be affected. The prices, I don't see a right reason for a cabinet minister to say that he has done this,
I'll just curiously ask, don't we have submarines in Malaysia and maybe some that couldn't sing? Is that the reason why we couldn't deploy them to look for them and have to hire get fishermen to look for them?
It's very unfortunate, and of course the famous BOMOs,
BOMOs are witch doctor.
The quack doctor or whatever, they came by and they caused a ruckus, not only in Malaysia but internationally. Now everybody makes fun of us, saying that we have got a lot of carpet doctors flying around, and there was even a quick video on how they were mobilizing themselves. So, and of course the infamous Mario Balotelli statement by the DCA chief. And so these are the things that we should be mindful. So the key thing is there is confusion, there was contradiction, lack of experts handling the issue, and the other point is also the lack of language. I must say, Malaysian education system has changed or transformed. So it's also not proper for me to say we were not good in English. So if so be, why not we speak in Bahasa Malaysia? if an incident like this would have happened in China or Russia or any part of the Eastern Europe countries, I'm sure they'll be using their own mother tongue.
Yeah, in fact, all the Chinese press conferences and other press conferences were carried out in their mother tongue.
Right, or even for the matter in India, though English is a primary language, they'll still speak in Hindi or whatever the state language is. So I think we should also look into this seriously, and let's be proud of Bahasa Malaysia. There's nothing to feel less about it. And if you think you're facing the international audience, so let's speak in BM and let the journalists to do their own homework. They can translate it. I mean, nobody in CNN or Sky TV will complain saying that, we can't understand what you're speaking. So, we could have done it even in that angle, the medium of language that we chose, because there was a lot of glibs and everybody was pointing at it, some even forgetting that there are 239 families out there who are waiting to hear a news, a news of goodness, so that, they can pacify themselves. But I think these are the little things that we have overlooked.
So Terence, how has this issues that he raised translated into how it's received in the media on the ground?
You see, I've been going to KLIA often enough to meet my team there and to just get a feel about what's going on and to mingle with the foreign journalists and some of the officials who are there. And as Ravi had outlined, the gaffes, the snafus, the bomo, who I read somewhere was the term bomo was tweeted 200,000 times in a day internationally.
Wow.
You see?
Okay.
And then Mario Balotelli, poor guy,
Yeah.
Do you want to tell some listeners who might not know what's...
I'm sure most of our listeners know who Mario Balotelli is now, even if they are not football fans, thanks to our DCA Director General, who basically meant to ask this question, which I think was a very racist question in this day and age. He meant to ask, does Mario Balotelli look Italian to you? And that was to a question from a journalist about what do the two men traveling on stolen passports look like? Because he said they don't look Asian, so the question was, so if they don't look Asian, what do they look like? And I don't know why. So answering the question, he just said, broccoli, batoli, and then they corrected him and said, you mean Balotelli? Yeah, Balotelli. And then he left it hanging. Because he left it hanging and he didn't address the question, those of us in the local media who's used to our officials and how they address questions and issues, we could interpret what they are trying to say. But the foreign media went to town, especially the British press, who are quite known for sensationalism, went to town, front page news, saying that one of the men traveling on stolen passport looked like Mario Balotelli. You see? So all this doesn't augur well for our image, Malaysia. We are supposed to be a developed country in 6 years' time. But the way we are handling the situation, the way we are presenting and projecting ourselves to the world, in the way that we are handling the crisis, the way we are answering and responding to questions, the way we are contradicting ourselves, doesn't give people the confidence that the search for MH370 is in the right hands. Yeah.
But you're talking about how the foreign journalists were responding to this.
Yeah. So sorry. Yes. When it is very disheartening for me being there, and I speak on behalf of a lot of my fellow Malaysian newsmen who are there on a daily basis. Some of them are even staying at the airport just to get first-hand information. We are there, we are watching some of our officials, sorry to say, making fools of themselves. And you feel for them. You feel for them and you feel for our country. So I'm standing there and I'm so angry at them I want to come out and say, hey, stop making a fool of yourself and just answer the damn question. But at the same time, the patriotic side of me comes out and say, hey, you got to save face.
Yeah.
Maybe you ask a question to help them or divert attention. But at the same time, the conclusion I came to it, look, you want the position, in fact, I had this conversation with one of my friends, Jabba Siddiq from Malaysian Insider, and he said, look, and I agree with him, you want the position, you want you want the glare of the cameras of the world press, you want the spotlight. Then you better step up your game. You step up your game and make sure you're able to address these issues. If it's too hot, get out of the kitchen.
I think I agree with Terence. I think it's showtime for us. Unfortunately, it's a sad incident or a bad incident or an unfortunate event. I think showtime, we have to live up to it, because once the stage is ready, we cannot say the actor is not. So it's a game that we have to take on seriously and tell the whole world how empathetic is Malaysia towards this unfortunate incident, and put up the facts right and state our case without any hesitation, and make sure your language, your delivery, and your visual aids are all in place. Because today the media is no more what it was when Tanjung Kupang incident took place. I mean, that was the commentary in the media. When that took place, there was only one radio station in Malaysia and one TV station. But today we are inundated with thousands of media personalities and equipment, infrastructure all around us. So we have to be ready. We cannot use the term that we're not ready anymore. And that's a critical thing. I think that's what Terence is.
Vienna, if you read the commentaries and editorials of some of the major newspapers, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, New York Post, Washington Post, even broadcast giants like CNN and Al Jazeera, they are going for the jugular.
Yeah.
They are saying that Malaysia's leadership or lack of leadership is showing through, and we are getting hammered every day by the international media of the way we are handling the crisis. And each time the leadership or those who are addressing the press conferences are asked difficult questions, the answer is standard. It is an unprecedented incident. We are still investigating. I can't answer that right now. And then they ask back the question, who is your source? So you cannot be standoffish with the media. And Ravi mentioned earlier something about how they are so used to handling or facing local media. So, and the local media, I have to admit, many of them are quite docile. And they don't really challenge the authorities, probably because so the authorities are so used to mainstream press asking them all the safe questions, all the PR questions, and they don't really challenge them during press conferences. I'm not saying everybody, but the majority of them don't. But so suddenly they are faced with an onslaught of people from the Indian media, people from the Chinese media, people from, the likes of CNN, like Ravi said, they are not used to some of the questions. For example, on the second day, or was it the third day, when the Air Force chief said that there was the plane made a turn back on the Air Force radar, indicated that the plane made a turn back. Jim Clancy from CNN asked a question. So, if he made a turn back, can you tell us how many kilometers it traveled? Was it 20 kilometers, 200 kilometers? And he couldn't answer. Oh yeah, we are still checking. We're still investigating. And what the hell you want to investigate? We are lay people. If you say that there's radar, there's information, there's data, why does it take so many days for you to determine that there was a turn back and to come back to us another 2 days to say exactly how many kilometers it has traveled? I mean, this is not Tanjung Kupang anymore. This is 2014. So we expect information not only to be accurate, but also to be fast at your fingertips.
I'd like to add to what Terence just said. I think the critical thing is that identify the stakeholders. In a crisis, number one, we must identify the stakeholders. Number two, manage their expectations. The media's expectation, especially the international media expectation, is they are not going to let us go by just saying, yeah, it happened, this is where it happened. No, they want to know how it happened, why it happened, what were the factors that contributed to this incident. So they are very, very detailed and very, very incisive. And next thing is, identify the gaps and address it with a loud message and a strong message. Let's not take any chances. So if we do that, I think we can then take on the second crisis. I hope there is not going to be one. Then we're talking about truly a proper way of managing a crisis. Yeah.
If I may add, one of the news pieces that I've read from Bloomberg View and also other news pieces talk about how the leadership seems to be in a state of gross incompetence. In fact, they literally wrote of how does someone like Hishamuddin Hussein becomes a defense minister and an acting transport minister in Southeast Asia's third biggest economy. So because the bungled search for Flight 370 has simply manifested the consequence of this of Malaysia's flaw. So a plane disappears and Malaysia's flaws emerge. So it seems like right now they are even questioning whether it seems like we might have the hardware, but we don't really have the software to run the country. And that might be a manifestation of all the policies that have gone on in the past. So while we won't dwell on that so much, but we will have to probably attest to some truth in that, in how it has manifested in our leadership. But moving on though, how can we actually learn from this crisis? Yeah. I think one of the important points that we should probably emphasize, Ravi brought it up, is to treat it with empathy, especially with the families of those involved in this plane crisis. Yeah. And Ravi has brought up a very important point that I think most international media has missed out. In fact, so Malaysia has actually offered to bring all the families of the ones involved to come to Malaysia. And maybe Ravi, you could.
I think I just want to quickly go through your initial statement saying about incompetency. I think the Malaysian government has been very sincere in wanting to make sure there is this exercise whereby we eradicate poverty. Unfortunately, that eradication of poverty, irrespective of races, somehow or other did not come into play that very well. That could be one of the many factors that have contributed.
It undermines competition.
Yeah, could have contributed to the current state, but I think it's a situation that can be reversed. And how we can reverse is to realize ourselves, thinking the importance of Malaysia first, putting Malaysia first, then putting the people after the nation. I think that's the critical point that I would like to make, because Malaysia must stand up irrespective of one or two persons' failure. We are all proud to be a Malaysian and we want to be that way. So, this hammering that's going around is not something that we want to lie down and take it. We have to defend ourselves. I think, there are flaws in every system. Systems fail. It happens everywhere and anywhere. But I think now this incident is a lesson learned for everybody in the government, in the private sector, or any sector for the matter, because we have to learn. And moving on to say, Malaysia has been so kind in the sense about bringing the victim's family all the way from Beijing and putting them or housing them in a 5-star hotel in Malaysia or KLIA. Why? Because we want to share and tell the world how concerned we are. But unfortunately, again, that beautiful action of the country or the authorities concerned has not been amplified in the manner it should be. In handling a press conference, I think the most important sector that we have to focus on is the visual aids. We should have had a huge screen which we can press on. Suppose we just touch on a touch screen to say how are we treating the victims' families. Then we can straight away pan into the hotel that they are staying. I mean, they may not be happy, by the way, but the effort that Malaysian government has taken. Number two, suppose we are doing the search operations. On the screen again, this is shot by whole world TV, yeah? We can show what is happening in the South China Sea, what's happening in the, the waters around Vietnam, or wherever it may be. Can you imagine if we can see what the Vietnamese government is doing, or the US government is doing, or the British government is doing in supporting us? As you rightly said, there are about 50 nations who are supporting us now.
25
nations who are supporting us in this search exercise. If we can incisively show what is happening, be it whether it's naval or air, to show, what are the ships or what are like Singapore, for instance, they've deployed a couple of state-of-art planes to help us in the search mission. But what has happened today is that, again, one day we can hear the Vietnam government saying they are pulling out. Another day, Malaysian government telling the Indian government to pull out. So these are the factors that has come up to story. So number three is to show that every action that we are taking, be it search or rescue action, it is shown very vividly to the audience. Yeah? And the other thing is the press conference itself can be online or live streaming to everywhere in the world. And the other critical thing in communication is, in an incident like this, you cannot be prophetic. Your message must be realistic. So you must zoom into the victims, the families, the governments, the employees, the politicians, or the 14 nations that are involved, to tell them exactly, these are the actions that we are taking, this is what has happened day one, this is where we are, day two, another 12 countries have joined us, day three, they spot some wreck somewhere, whatever. So if we could have taken it in a very organized, systematic manner, I think we would have got a lot of bouquet than anything else. And the other point is also taking control. I think we failed terribly on the first few days in taking control. Of course, the defense minister or the acting transport minister came in to rescue a little later. I think this should have been the day one itself, And the other thing is, when an incident takes place like this, I think it's very important to give the audience the worst case scenario. A could be this, B could be this. Then if after 48 hours there is no progress, then we can give them a situation where, there is a miracle. So at least to warn and forearm the people, And
but that's not giving them false hopes.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying saying that they're all alive. No. I'm just saying that this is the state we are. And our action is now to go into the rescue mode, or the search mode, or the recovery mode. Whatever mode, and plan your action towards that. Because every mode has got different approaches. It cannot be the same. So we are giving confidence to the 239 families who are just waiting to hear something good. Yeah? And the other thing is to make sure that the spokesperson is a ably trained, well-rounded person, not physically, well-rounded in the sense of handling the questions and taking it on in a very confident manner. Of course, the defense minister did to a point well, but I think we could have saved many of the clips if the defense minister, a person like him, were to be starting the whole show rather than after 1 or 2 days later. And we, as I said earlier, we don't have to use a foreign language if we are not comfortable. We can use Bahasa Malaysia, which is our mother tongue in Malaysia. Let's use it and let's tell the whole world that this is the language that we speak in this country, and how well we can conduct a press conference. And the other point is, if you want to take on the multiracial component of Malaysia, I think many of the TV stations or the radio stations or TV stations especially, when this incident happened, I think every religion, every race went to pray. But unfortunately, if you see some of the TV stations, they were just showing one or two. I mean, it's a beautiful country of ours. You know, we have got so many types of religions here. I would have planned it, even if I'm the person handling this. I would have planned every prayer to be given a segment. Could be a church, could be a temple, could be a Buddhist temple, could be a mosque. I would have planned it and say how united we are in praying for these 239 people and their families. But it didn't come out that very well in that sense. And the last thing is to make sure that we would have prepared an FAQ which gives, you know, all the hypotheses or all the conjectures the people are making. Whether is it a human error? Some experts, you know, now they say there are many aviation experts among us to say, hey, this is what happened, that went wrong, this went wrong. No, the human error element could be deducted. Or the technical malfunction, if there is any. Or terrorism. Or hijacking. I mean, we see that in CNN, we see that in Sky, you know, TVs where they bring in the experts to give their views. We too have some experts in Malaysia. Well, if not the foreign experts, they can come and tell us how this is not possible, how this is possible. Then that would have given some point of grace or comfort to these victims who are waiting there to hear something. You know, so these are some of the components that we could have done well, you know. And the rumor component, of course, Malaysians, we are just like Teh Tarik and Roti Canai. Rumor is the third thing that we all do very well in Malaysia. And rumors are why? Because you see, any information which is not properly orchestrated or communicated becomes a rumor. You know?
Maybe this also has a root in how, like we mentioned, a lot of PR type of press conferences have always been covered in Malaysia, so it leads people to a lot of space for rumors because it is not covered in the official, you know, news.
Right. I think the rumor component is a very critical component because everybody, as someone said, everybody has become an expert in this area of aviation or plane or whatever. I think we must ensure that every hypothesis or every accusation or every rumor that's coming up, we must find a mechanism to I'm not saying that to offset it, at least to give the sober-minded Malaysians or the moderate-minded international audience or the media themselves a balanced picture of what is the truth. Because everybody is now using the word truth. Where is the truth? What happened? Why did it happen? Could it be this? Could it be that? So if that kind of answers are forthcoming, then we can reduce the tension that's prevailing now. You know, because you can, your SMSs, the online media, the blogs, you can hear many possible hypotheses or conjectures they're making, which is sometimes very laughable. I mean, I think to the point where even the Bomer's intervention, I think, could be that. Because the ordinary people thought it's as simple as that. But it is not. You know, it's about data, you know, data mining, information from the radar, working with foreign countries. So there are many very, very, intrigue issues to manage, you know. Terence, yeah.
Yes. You know, you were talking earlier about how they are so unprepared when they address the media. Just to emphasize on that point, the Prime Minister, FZ reported it a couple of days ago. The Prime Minister actually hauled up all these guys who are facing the media. I think it was on the 11th of March. The first meeting and the second meeting was on the 12th of March, where he basically told them to get their act together and don't go out there and embarrass the country. So he said, this was after the IGP's first press conference. And he said, look, be prepared. Don't go out there and contradict each other. Know what you want to say. Know what you're going to say. And be prepared with questions. And if you really don't have the answer, then just say, I don't know. Don't try to make up and answer or seem to be evasive, because we're not just dealing with the local media, we're dealing with the international press. The world's eyes are on us. So if you notice, on the 12th of March, Dato' Hishamuddin started going up with a piece of paper.
Yes, he was prepared.
True. So they started reading out statements.
Yes.
So I think they are a lot better prepared in addressing
absolutely
the press now.
Yeah. It's good. It's okay even if you use the notes. Nobody is saying you can't use notes.
Even the White House, they use notes.
Yeah. Even the newsreaders use notes. So no harm in
no harm.
No harm at all.
But but don't forget, the world is like I said,
watching us.
The world is watching us and how we're handling the situation.
Yeah.
Look, aeroplanes fall out of the sky. Okay, it happens. Forgive me for saying this. You can bleep me out, but shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and but it's what you do after that that really emphasizes and defines who you are as a person and as a leader and as a nation.
Yeah.
Don't forget, this is going to have very long-standing repercussions on Malaysia. Investors are watching us.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and they're going to say, hey, do I want to put my money in a country where they're calling bomos and shaman to look for a missing plane? Because that's what's going through the mind of the international community. We are a third world country living on trees. Some people still think we're living on trees, and we're calling bomos to come and help us look for a missing plane. We've reached that point of desperation. You see, and the fact that they can't communicate well, as Ravi had articulated, is also very telling about where we stand in the eyes of the international community. Do people want to put money with us?
Yeah. I think I'll add some phrases that's highlighted in Bloomberg View, which kind of surprises me, because I thought that, I will only see all this kind of, let's say, knowledge about what the policies are in local media. But here, in fact, it's highlighted in international media about, rather than free the country from race-based quotas and business preferences, the party, which is the United Malaysian National Organization, UMNO, has expanded them. Never mind that these policies makes Malaysia even less attractive to multinational companies and encourage so many of the nation's best and brightest to move to Singapore and Hong Kong. Now that Philippines and Indonesia are surging ahead, Malaysia looks backward. And Malaysia has never bothered to cut red tape, level the playing fields for non-Malays, or even introduce the competitive forces necessary to stimulate entrepreneurship. So I feel that I'll have to agree with you that this is going to have a lot of repercussion in economy even. Yeah.
Because you see, after the second week of searching for the plane, the analysis is going to be a lot more in-depth about the Malaysian leadership and why it is so lacking.
Yep.
And so they're going to bring back the 50 years of our independence, our government policies, which probably is a reason as to why we probably don't have the right people or the best people doing the right jobs. You see? And Ravi was mentioning earlier during the break that before we started rather, that we have missed, Ravi, you can add on,
sure,
a golden opportunity. I mean, I wouldn't say golden opportunity. But to exploit the fact that we are a cultural melting point, and that we have actually very, very good people in crisis management, within our midst, who have not been allowed or given the opportunity to show their skills and to address the issue, community, the issues. Ravi, maybe on that.
I think the key point is crises don't come telling. It happens in moments when we are really unprepared. But I think it's the responsibility of any institution, government, or any bodies for the matter, to ensure that a proper crisis communication plan is in place to face and also to rise up to the moment. You see, Vienna, what you just said just now is about, due to this crisis, now everybody is looking into us like as if as though we are now under the imaging machine, the one that you go into hospitals.
X-ray?
The X-ray, not X-ray, the other one, the digital.
MRI?
MRI. Malaysia on MRI right now, and they are looking at many things. Fair or not fair, I wouldn't want to comment. But I think we have brought ourselves to that level today. If only we would have managed the situation in a professional manner, and making sure that, every angle is covered in a professional manner, then we could have, done much, much better.
So I would add a Chinese saying to that. It goes like, 台下10年功, 台上1分钟. It means that work that's done, behind the stage for 10 years, is presented in front of the stage for 1 minute. So, so that would be a good summary. We have our guest speaker today.
I want to add, I think, Malaysia has never been this is not the first time we've ever been in the spotlight. We've always been in the spotlight. We've always had, incidents of being in the spotlight. But every time we are in the spotlight, the minister's answer is, kalau you if you're not happy, you can migrate lah. And that seems to be the only answer, and everybody kind of accepts that answer, and that's the end of it. But nobody ever presses them for, hey, Minister, that's a stupid answer. You need to come up with a better answer than that. Nobody ever does that. But now, the cows have come home. It's almost like that. That you had all these other times, or all these other opportunities to answer why did you take away the petrol subsidy. Tell us why. There were good reasons. Actually, I know the reasons why. But you never presented it in such a manner that people actually understood it. That didn't give you the practice of answering properly, Right. And then now that you're in the eyes of the media is on you, you're not prepared at all.
Yeah, and if I could bring a point from Terence about how it could have given us a very good opportunity to brand and position ourselves in the international eyes. Like, especially with Malaysia being a multi-ethnic country, with so many Chinese passengers on board. And especially we know that in Malaysia, in the private practice, that is where you actually find more non-Malays actually. That's why you would see that the representation even in the press conference are not actually that balanced actually. So we could have positioned ourselves with a very good branding of what the country stands for.
I think you're nailing it. I think Malaysia is known to be Malaysia truly Asia. That's our selling point, and it's unfortunate that we are only keeping that to a tagline and not living
tourism
up to
campaign.
it. I think we could take it one step further by making sure it's really happening. And this platform that we have in our hands today, it's unfortunately is an excellent platform, I must say. It's not that I'm saying make hay when the sun shines. I'm saying this is an incident. It's right under our hands, and we can manage it in a very professional, harmonious, and also to show how diversity brings about unity in Malaysia. I think that's my closing line, and I would like to say, I think crises don't come calling, but when they come, you have to ride it. You cannot say, oh, I'm scared, oh, I'm not prepared, oh, I'm not eloquent, oh, I'm not ready. No, these answers are not to be taken at all.
Gentlemen, may I pose a question to you of what impact do you think this crisis can bring to Malaysia, whether good or bad? And also, maybe a question.
I think from what the perception lies ahead of us, it has not been good. I mean, but let's move on to reality. I mean, this has happened, so be it. Let's move forward. I think we want to actually have an answer now, or just right when I open this door and going out, saying that, yes, we have found the 370 and everybody is alive. That's what we all want to hear. That's what we all are praying for. So I think we can still work on it to say that how we can manage the forthcoming perception or expectation of our stakeholders. Let's go visual. Let's be very, very implicit in telling the audience about exactly this is what we're doing. Let's use visual communication to say it's no more just talking or reading. let's have a touch screen to display what's happening. Our Beijing office, our Mars office in Beijing, how are they managing the inquiries? How are they managing the South China Sea, whatever the sea that the plane is anticipated to be? Or how are they managing the various states of governments? Maybe we can even get a call in from Obama to say what are his expectation, or the president of China to say, what is his expectation and how they can help, or Vietnam or India, because these are all, Malaysia has been a wonderful nation which has been very, very brotherly and friendly. I mean, we don't have any international enemies. We are not like any other country where, we don't like. No, Malaysia has been, our foreign policy has been excellent. So let's use this advantages that we have and thrive on it. I mean, this kind of advantages not many countries have, and we have. Everybody is willing to work with us. So I say that, yes, it has been slightly bad. Let's make it better. How to make it better is, let's get visual. Let's be very clear in our messaging. Let's bring the best people to appear on TV. We don't want a statement like what somebody said in CNN, that we're all trying to act on first time appearing on TV. Somebody said that. So we don't want all that. We want to make sure that we are truly, truly Asia, Malaysia, truly Asia, that kind of a feeling. That is in terms of cultural component, but in terms of managing the issue in hand, we must be absolutely clear. As Terence said just now, we have to bring in the professionals. There are many in Malaysia too, who knows the culture, the lifestyle, the way we work, the language for the matter. Yeah. Terence.
No, Ravi, at the end of the day, it's not for you and me sitting here for the last 1 hour to say these things.
Yes, yeah.
I want to know, the so-called PR companies and PR practitioners who have been paid millions by the government to advise them on such issues. What the hell have they been doing? What the hell have you been telling everybody? Or have they been, my gut feeling is that they've been giving them the right advice, but the advice has not been taken until the Prime Minister himself jumped. Because that is the culture in this country. The top man has to jump before something moves, or before you set things right. And Vienna, you in your closing remarks, you were asking about repercussions or where Malaysia is headed after this. I'm telling you, girl, we are screwed. You know why we are screwed? Because, like I said earlier, the entire world is watching the way we're handling this situation, and we're making a bloody mess of it. Okay, so why would investors want to put their money in a country where they are falling over each other to find a plane? Okay, and look, and for the rest of us, from now on, anybody flying on a Malaysian passport, anyone flying out of KLIA, flying on Malaysian Airlines, are going to be spending a lot more time at security check at international airports. I'm bracing myself because I'm flying to the US in June, and I'm bracing myself for what the hell is going to happen to me when I land in LA. Because it's going to change travel culture and travel procedures for all Malaysians, or everybody flying out of KLIA or flying out of on MAS. 3 days ago, there's a trial going on in New York involving Osama bin Laden's brother-in-law. And one of the witnesses is a jihadist terrorist who was giving video evidence from Gloucester, England, where he's being held. And he said that he brought up five Malaysian jihadists, one of whom is a pilot. And they were planning to use shoe bombs to disable aeroplanes. Shoe bombs are usually used, from what I understand, to blow up cockpits, to blow up the doors to cockpits, to gain access to cockpits. So, the trial is still ongoing. This information is just trickling out over the last 2 days. It's definitely going to impact us. But what's most important is that the Malaysian government has not been giving the confidence to the international community that they are heading towards developed nation status, and that the international community's investments, and most importantly their nationals, are safe in our own country. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us here today.
Thank you.
It was a great time of sharing. So we'll see you in the next ASEAN Breakfast Call.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.